Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. Together, we can start to make a massive impact if we change one life at a time. So make sure to rate, review, subscribe. You'll definitely want to share this episode. I'm really excited to have my really good friend, Alison Lager, with us. She started it's not Alison Lager, it's called Lager Counseling back in 1994. So a while ago, she's been in the counseling business, which is absolutely incredible. And we got to do some events together. We've done some cool stuff together. We were just talking for a while before this. I'm like, man, we got to get in the podcast. So I'm really excited to have you on. Allison, thanks for being here.
I'm so grateful to be here, Ange. Just to spend time with you is just a great experience for me. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Let's get cracking, girl. What the fudge are we going to talk about?
We're going to go way, way back, first of all, and then we're going to get more relative sooner.
Okay.
What got you into counseling? What got you into becoming a therapist back? You started your business in 94, but I'm guessing you were a therapist even before that. Like, what got you into that line of work?
Yeah. Well, basically, I started out, I would say what really, if I went way back, it's because I think I'm an empath. I was born to help people. And I had my experience as a child was that I was raised by hippies, basically, and they were really super into freedom. And they thought that that was a good way to love me. But it opened me up. I was neglected a lot. And I had a mom who had a lot of emotional ups and downs. I think she was probably depressed. So I think a lot of my programming from the time I was a really, really little girl was basically to make people feel better. When I was born, my grandfather said, "Oh, this is the one who's going to change the family." So that's the dysfunctional part of becoming a therapist. Like, a lot of people will become therapists because they want to change the history of their family. They want to rescue their mom, their dad, their dysfunctional, crappy background. So basically what I ended up doing was, as I went through my life, I lived a life. Basically, my interpretation of my life was that I was less than. I was ashamed of my house. I was ashamed of my life. I was the girl who could never grew up in a middle class neighborhood, which was very manicured. My parents had like the high grass. I was the house on the block. And I would get dropped off when I was in first grade. I would get dropped off at my uncle's house 4 blocks away and walk home because I didn't want people to know where I lived. So I think, I grew up ashamed. Like, if I could say what was my core feeling from the time I was a child, I felt ashamed. And I was always on a quest to make everything better around me, cleaning my house, making people happy, doing because I'm a driven type of person and I want to create beauty and all of that. So then there's that. I don't know if you want me to keep going because, there was a lot of stuff in my life. I was sexually abused. I had an eating disorder. I was hospitalized for having an eating disorder. I had really probably the history of if you looked up in a dictionary, worst boyfriend ever, I probably had that. Like, seriously, like that was not all of the boyfriends, but one particular one. So I was in a murder trial. Like, there's just so many things. It sounds like I'm making it up.
We're gonna have multiple episodes on this. I can tell.
Yeah, no, these are things you probably don't even know about me.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you know what I love about it, and I'm just gonna tell you the thing that I think is funny, and it sounds crazy that I think it's funny, but as I was going through my life. And like one really hard, very, very difficult experience after another would occur. When those things would happen, initially I would be, really upset, but I always had like this resilience inside of me to like create something out of it. So, for some reason, and I guess God put that in me from the time I was very little, where I would say, how can I make this great? Even the worst situations. So and I think that was just part of God's design for my purpose. But the thing that I learned probably up until that I really grasped was that I was like, at one point, I was like, why do these things always happen to me? Why am I, victim wah-wah shit? But what I realized was what an honor. Angela, holy shit, what an honor. Every single time, if I didn't go through the things that I went through, I would be shallow. I would be selfish. I would never, I just really, really believe that it was by design. And, people might say, oh, it's what you do with the shit that you're handed. And yes, it was the circumstances. When you leave a kid alone and you neglect a kid, shit happens. It's like you don't leave a baby alone. What? I mean, stuff happens. So I do think that each one of the things that have happened in my life have made me able to create these counseling centers where when I see something like for me, I was hospitalized with an eating disorder. I know what it's like to stick a toothbrush down your throat. I know what it's like for throw up to hit you in your face. I know what it's like that every single place you go, you have an abuser right here going, you know what, you're ugly, you're fat, you can't eat that. If you eat that, and then going home and stuffing your face and hiding and hating yourself for years, torturing myself and then smiling at people when I saw them. I know what it's like to believe that you are never, ever, ever in your life ever going to get better, no matter what. And I believed it. I will never, ever, ever overcome this, and I'll never tell anyone. And what ended up happening, this is why I feel like the greatest gift is that I have this mouth where I tell people shit. Like I just tell the truth. And that when you tell the truth, you get healed. When you're vulnerable, you get healed. When you're open. So I ended up telling the truth about my eating disorder. And the thing that happened to me is that now in these counseling centers, I can talk to anybody with an eating disorder. I feel like I can walk into that dark, dirty land. I can put my stake in that shit. I own that land because I've recovered. So now I can go in, I can give hope. I can sit with you in your pain. I'm not afraid of it. I understand it. And when people feel understood, and they know that you understand them, they can get better. So I just have had so many things that I can go into the fucking land. Oh, sorry. I can go into that land. So I feel like it's an honor now that moving through my life, as I've gotten so much, I never say the word old, as I've gotten seasoned, I feel like I'm so much better able to understand other people in pain, what is better than that? Mm-hmm. I give you a very long answer to a very short question.
I love that. You gave a lot of information. And so what I want to dig into on that is what was a catalyst for you to change? What started you out of that, toothbrush down your throat, abuse, that kind of stuff? What caused you to change? How did you get out of it?
Well, there's layers of getting out of things. So basically, I originally started to get better, into recovery sort of things, but not with my eating disorder was later. So then I had to recover from that. So a lot of people, anybody who's hearing who has issues, sometimes there's always a solution. There's never not a solution, but sometimes there's multiple solutions and people have to move through a path of getting better. So when I was 19, the first thing was I read a book by Og Mandino called The Greatest Miracle in the World. And for whatever reason, that book, and I did the thing for 100 days that it said in there. And
who gave you that book?
My oldest brother gave it to me. And then there was another thing that, interestingly, in that book, it talks about go the extra mile and count your blessings. So there's this thing you go through. So I was so into, I'm going the extra mile, whatever. But that, interestingly, because I was so immature, I ended up getting into a relationship with a person who totally sucked. Basically, it was probably the worst person you could ever be in a relationship with. But I was like, I'm going to go the extra mile. And it was so but I was just young and I didn't know. So then I had this whole codependent crazy shit going on with this guy. And then, I ended up becoming a reader and I got into recovery. I've lived the 12-step design my most of my adult life, because designed for a living, because I believe in it. And so in terms of my eating disorder, so I was in like recovery for like codependency, being with I don't know, like drug dealers, gun-toting men who, had like, whatever, those kind of people, a lot of problems. But they were very nice to me and they thought I was the nicest girl in the world. And that's all I needed. But anyhow, so that was my drug, to be people to love me and think I was great.
Approval. Because your parents
right?
weren't around to approve of you or disapprove of you. So you needed approval. Makes sense.
That's exactly it, Angela. See, now I'm healed all the way. No, it's true though. But anyhow, so am I answering your question? So with the eating disorder, basically what I did was I believe that it was digging in and never giving up. Like one of the people that really helped me a lot was a pastor. I don't always recommend that people should go to their pastor for counseling, but we were really good friends and he was a really good dude. And he was like, just a friend to me. And he just like I just would talk to him every week and he gave me hope. And I think that was it. I didn't think there was any hope. And eventually I got hospitalized for 28 days. And that really wasn't even the full healing of my eating disorder, because I think that when someone has an eating disorder, you have to be healed on every single level, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, your body, because people who are abused sexually can very often end up having a very bad relationship with their body, with food, with relationships. So one of the things I do with people who have an eating disorder, it's funny because when I finally got hospitalized, I was very early on as a therapist. And a lot of what I did as a therapist is I did therapy on me. Just saying. I did. I would give myself assignments. One of the assignments I gave myself was to write a letter to food. So I did that. And I found out very quickly when I wrote the letter to food, and then I just covered up the word food, and it was and I saw that it was men who I was writing the letter to. And that's what I do with clients. Or I would write a letter to the binge. Like, what is a binge? Give them a voice to the binge. Like, what is so when I was sitting there and I would be binging or something, I'd say, okay, what is this binge saying? Because we don't think to look at parts of our behavior and say, what am I communicating by this behavior? Because there's always a message.
Give me an example of, because I know you're totally open, and this is so neat because this is totally tangible for anyone listening that's dealing with anything, which honestly, I probably think all of us are dealing with something.
Nobody's not.
Yeah. What's like, how would, like, give me a voice of a binge. Like, how would you write it? What would you say? Give me an example.
A voice of a binge? Oh, yeah. Okay. So it could be, can I curse?
Sure.
If you don't want me to, I won't. I'll say fudge
I don't
instead.
know. It says it's clean. I don't know about this podcast stuff. We're still learning.
I know. I say it's clean too, and it's not. But anyhow.
Okay. Here we go.
So we lie on here. But anyhow, so who's going to police the podcast anyhow? Really?
Who
let's be real. Okay, but watch. Now the podcast police are going to come after me. Okay.
I know.
So anyhow, they will. Okay. So, and then that'll be another thing I got over. No, let me back up. Okay. So a binge would be the voice of a binge. It would be, this is just an example. I need. I can never, ever, ever get anyone, if I can't get what I want, I have control over this shit. You know what? Fuck everybody. I hate everybody. You know what? I'm going to do this for me. No one ever listens to me. I hate my life, and it'll just be like things like that. It'll be like, I
deserve this.
What? I deserve this. And another thing, what people also say with a binge, because I actually had a client who would say, I'd say, no, you tell me. So she would say she'd go through a drive-through, right? And she said, she would eat. I'd say, what would you get? And she would tell me, like all these things. And I'd say, okay, so when'd you eat it? See, this therapists are not doing this shit. And this bothers me about therapy. They don't go in. So, oh, I ate 5 hamburgers. Oh, okay. I stay right there because you know what, where that shit is, you got to go down
Mm-hmm.
5, 10, 20 layers. Okay. How did you eat it? I would find out shit you would not even believe,
Interesting.
shoving
Yeah.
it in her face as if she was being beaten up. But I didn't do that, but myself personally. But if
Right.
you ask the right questions, see, when people can tell the real truth to somebody else who has earned the right to hear it, that's the
When it
beginning of
starts with
getting
really,
better.
like anyone listening, it really starts with, like, I'm just thinking of myself and people, but like it really starts with telling the truth to yourself as to
100%.
like really digging deep on yourself. If you're doing this, for whatever thing is in your life, listeners, start to dig. I mean, maybe you're not ready to go to a therapist. And in that case, like, do it on yourself. At least start with something and just start digging. Like when you go into a binge, if it's drinking, if it's drugs, if it's food, if it's sex, if it's whatever it is, those are a lot of different things. Or like you said, even like not eating, like all the stuff.
Yep.
What is it? And then why? And I love that, like digging deep as to, and then how are you doing it? If you're going out drinking or you're going to the bar, you're drinking in the basement of your house. Like there's a difference. I can see that. Like, and I would dig into like, where did that come from?
What I want to say about that, Ange, is that it takes two to tell the truth. But I'm not saying that because I'm like being a proponent of therapy, but I think that it's also with yourself, because most people do not slow down enough to tell themselves the truth, right? Like what you're
It's
saying.
true.
And also, like, you have to proactively, like, it's almost like I tell people, or I tell myself, this is what I do with myself. That's when I said I give myself therapy. So it sounds weird to say that there's actually two of us there, but there's a wise observer that you can tap into. That's your
I
being.
agree.
And if I say, look at yourself, observe yourself, and ask yourself loving questions. So not like, why the hell, because if you say, why the hell are you doing this? What's wrong with you? That's what somebody does with an addiction. Every addiction, there's a core of shame. I don't care what anybody says.
I see that.
So giving a voice to whatever it is you're doing, so you can hear the story. So it's not like, I always tell people, don't say the word why, because it creates a sense of defense. So if I said, Ange, why are you
why
wearing
did I
blue?
give up? Why did I eat that? Hear that all the time.
The question, because if you said, what was it, honey? What was it about that moment that made you feel like you needed that food? What was it about that moment that made food so scary? What was it about? And it could also be like because when you're an addict, so once you get to a point, that's another thing I just want to say. It's not always digging in and finding out what the problem is. Because once there's a thing with alcohol, drugs, I'm also a drug and alcohol counselor. So, and eating disorders, any addiction. I just want to shout out that gambling is one of the most horrifying addictions across the board. And I'm in New York, and basically it is an epidemic. Young kids, 16 years old, 15 years old, are being groomed for this shit. And if you have a kid who's in their 20s, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, in their bedroom, door closed, and you think they're depressed, you have to find out if they're gambling. Because it's a majority, I am telling you, it is across America, that it's so much fun. It is the devil himself, I swear to you, Angela. And kids are killing themselves. And older people who have gone through the gambling scene are now grooming them. And then they have them go and collect money. They have them go and collect money and strong arm other kids or run drugs because they owe them so much money, and they become their victims. They're actually their prisoners. I just feel like I have to say that somewhere.
Wow. No, I appreciate that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you were going back to, and I do it. So like these addictions that are like this, so you dig into kind of where they came from, but you were going to say like, you need to do more than that. So,
what I was going to say is yes, because thank you. So what happens like with the eating disorder is like, you will see, so I did all of them. So across the board,
I've
starved,
done that.
binged and purged, and also I did them all. So I'm familiar. But when you have an addiction, that you can have a problem with a substance, and then you just keep walking. There's a line that you cross and you can't get back. I could cry when I think about it. I know when somebody's crossed the line. They don't have any control anymore. It's like in that book, Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. It's like that hypnotic loop. You have lost the power
But when
to
someone's
choose.
at that point, what do you recommend? Is that when they go into like
Yeah.
a rehab, like a state, like they
Yeah.
can't, like because physically then they can't do it because they have no
No
control.
choice.
And I 100% believe some people have, you do get to a point where there's literally no control, period.
And every time they do it, they hate themselves. And then they become addicted to the hatred of self, which is another addiction, because any feeling that we feel the most, we become chemically addicted to.
Right. It's our
So
habitual home.
Yeah. Our body,
Emotional
our brain
home.
makes receptors for it, extras for the thing, and then it pulls you back. So anyhow, to answer the question about what do they do? So there's a variety of things. And I think that it has to be, there's this moment where you just know, like, shit, I'm in trouble. I remember that.
Guys,
moment.
as you're listening to this, because I know, Alison, if you're listening to this and you're dealing with any of these things, for whatever reason, please reach out to Alison. We'll have all our stuff in the bio, and I'll say that at the end, but I just, really reach out to her. If there's a counseling center of hers that's close by, I know that would be great. If there's not, she'll steer you in the right direction. So please reach out. Keep going.
Yeah. And also I have somebody who can get somebody in any rehab anywhere across the whole country.
Perfect.
She is a colleague of mine. So,
awesome.
It's not like I'm trying to get clients, just basically I want to help people. It's horrifying. Yeah. So basically, so what happens is, help me. What was I saying?
We're talking about whenever they get to the point of no return, basically.
Oh yeah. So it's like people will call it a bottom. So they'll say like, oh, I crashed my car, I lost my wife, and blah, 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 but they're still going.
Right.
And then they're like, what is their bottom? And what I don't know, this is my personal discovery, and I've seen it over the years, so many addicts, whatever. It's this moment. It's this moment where, and it doesn't have to be like all these external things necessarily. It's a moment where you go, holy shit. I am the only one who can do anything about this. I am all alone. And it hurts because it feels impossible, but there's a switch in this like dynamic. And this is the problem, because they call it a family disease, because when all the family members are continuing to hold up this person and they don't know that they have to, it's their responsibility, even if they can't do it. They're the only one who can do anything about it. They have to give up. So it's almost like I have to give up because I know that I can't keep chasing this. So when the biggest thing to help people is to disconnect the family members, the girlfriends, the people who are, because the disease itself, it's the devil itself, and they call it's a family disease. Should I keep going? Is this too much?
Yeah, this is good. Mm-hmm.
So basically, like, I look at it like it's a ball of like this black hole, and then there's all these family members and people attached to it, giving it life. And basically, the addict is just one member of this disease. And everybody points to that. So the people who are codependent, the family members who are involved, they are invested in keeping the addict from feeling the pain due to them. So you never deny an addict their pain. It is a cruelty to do that. It's
so give me an example of denying. So when an addict's like feeling like, I don't know, they're feeling their life sucks, or they're addicted.
Well,
in other words,
they don't show up for work. They crash their car. They get a DWI. They're
right.
They cheat on their wife.
How does family enable that? What does family do?
The family enables it by betraying, abandoning themselves in order to keep the relationship. So allowing someone to mistreat you, that's one way that you support their addiction. Another way you do it is by covering up for them, calling in sick for them, giving them money when they just gambled everything away, um, uh, com- comforting them when they need to feel pain, telling them or doing things for them that they need to do for themselves, because that everything tells a story. We're giving messages all the time. So if I'm doing shit for
like
you,
they wreck their car and you give them a ride.
Give them a ride, buy them a new car, go to DMV for them because they can't do it. They're not functioning. So the dynamic of that is that I am messaging to you when I'm doing that you're not capable. I'm telling you that you can't do it because evidence shows that you can't. Because you can't, because you're an addict and you cannot function. But when you allow them to experience the ramifications of not functioning, then God gave us autocorrect. He allows us, and this is the thing, family members, moms particularly, we do not want our children to feel pain. So what we do is we stop their pain for them. We make it better for them. But I'm going to tell you something right now. This is a little harsh. I'm a mom. I have 4 kids and I know it. It is the most selfish thing to do. When I do things for my kids that they can do for themselves, it's for me. I'm telling you right now, it is not for them. I'm not, but I'm not talking about not taking care of your kids. I was neglected. That's not good. No, I'm talking about saying, like, one of the things I've said to my son, well, two of my kids have had some issues. So one of my kids, he was like, "Ma, could you do this for me?" I said, "Listen, I just want to tell you something. Just be honest." I said, "Listen, I love you so much. Everything inside of me, all I want to do is do this for you. And I'm going to tell you the truth. It's because I don't want to feel this." I said, "But I know the greatest love I can give you right now is not to do this." And you know what he said? He was like, "Thank you so much."
Wow.
He's like, "I know you're right. I know you're right, Mom. But it's because of the way I said it, Ange. I didn't say, 'Listen, you're such a fuck up. I'm not doing anything for you.'"
You're a loser. Go do it yourself.
Because sometimes when a kid asks for something, they don't want to say no. So they feel angry. I feel that. Like, I don't want to say no to you. I've said that to my other son. I'm like, I don't want to say no to you. Would you stop asking me when you can do it for yourself? I don't want to say no. And it makes me mad at you. But anyhow, I'm going off.
Man, that totally makes sense. This all makes sense. So much sense. I love it.
Yeah. So I had no idea we were going to talk about like drugs, alcohol, gambling, eating disorders, because that's like not really such a big part of my life, but it's everything that we do here. I mean,
it's a massive impact right now. And I'm glad we're talking about it because I just think there's so many people, especially the last couple of years, that are really going through a lot of addictions. And then through the addictions, they hit wherever they hit and they ended up committing suicide. And there's an epidemic of suicide happening out there. And so if this helps one person, maybe it's not the person listening, but maybe they're with someone, like you said, that codependence yet, hadn't really thought about that. But I know people that, obviously love their people so much and they're dealing with some of these addictions, and it's really easy to enable in a sense without meaning to. So I just think that's so powerful. So your recommendation, if there's a family member that's dealing with someone or someone close to you, would be to encourage them to, at that point, go into rehab, go into, a facility if necessary, like that kind of thing. Is that?
No,
okay.
I wouldn't.
What do you recommend?
Yeah. Good. So basically, family members are always doing that, recommending all that shit. And basically, addicts know how to get what they need. Look at if they take those that if they took 5% of the energy they put into getting what they needed to get high, to whatever it is, if they put it into getting better, they can get better. So we believe they can't get better. They believe they can't get better. The best thing that we can do is say, you know what? I believe in you. I know you can do this. So that's why I'm not doing this for you. I think
basically, so if you have someone really close to you, this is hard for people. I know this. So if you have someone really close to you that's dealing with an addiction, you basically you don't really suggest that they do anything except "I love you" and you figure it out. Is that basically like a short form? Like,
well, that's it's a short form. And it's also, there's also a process, because if somebody's willing to get help and they say to you, listen, I really know I'm in trouble. I need help. Would you help me figure this out? I would help them,
okay.
just like, somebody, but the
So
thing is
don't suggest it for them when they're not asking for it. If they're asking for help, then you'll be able to direct them kind of in the right way.
Yeah, but what I do want to say about that is that the family is just as sick as the addict. And a lot of people don't know that, because it's very, very compelling to be the one who's the hero. And that goes into like the whole family dynamics, the systems theory, that when the family that you've grown up in, everybody kind of has a role. And when there's an addict in that family, there's usually a hero. And the hero will be the person, that's their drug. It is compelling. It is so compelling to be the hero, to be you hear people when somebody's a fall down drunk and then they have a wife who's a saint. Why do you think that is?
All the time.
That's the disease's design. I'm going to make you look so good, just like a gambler. I'm going to let you win so
they're
much
almost
money.
in, and I'm trying to think of my own life, and I'm going through I'm like,
oh, believe me, I'll do it with you right now. I'll tear that family right apart there, Ange.
I'm like, geez, do I do that? But like, so basically, almost that person that's going through that, and I'm sure I do it in different areas. Like, so I'm really going to be thinking about this. But like, they're almost addicted to their own addiction of like,
100%.
Look at me go. Like, I feel really good. I'm that person. I'm the roadblock. I'm the man. I probably
know what they're addicted to. You want to know what they're addicted to? They're addicted to a few things, but they're addicted to not looking at themselves. So people who are involved with an addict, when you're around an addict, there's so much happening around them. There's so much work to do on them that you never have to look at yourself. They're your problem. They're the reason that you can't do whatever it is you can't do. They're your excuse. They're your problem. They're everything. And that I have this joke, when a codependent person dies, their addict's life flashes before their eyes. Like, they don't have a life. They lose themselves. And that's a really big thing that we see. Like, there is probably there's like, I'm not going to give a number, but women struggle with this. Like, we have a moms group here for moms of adult children, and we just help them detach with love. That is like a magic formula. It's like a godly formula. I think about like, Jesus Christ. He was the most able to help. He was the most detached, but he loved you more than anything on earth. So when I think about, he gives us free will, he lets us suffer tremendous suffering. And but we as human beings, like if we can't let someone else suffer, because, and I'm not saying we shouldn't help people. I help people all the time, obviously, but it's like, don't deny people this gold that they can go through. You can support and help them feel better, but don't take it from them. Mm-hmm. Right? Makes sense or no?
Totally makes sense. Yeah, totally makes sense. Man, so good. I know that we're going to run out of time, and we're going to have you back on, because we didn't even touch on half the stuff I wanted to get into, but I knew this would be gold. This is so good because it's so tangible. And I just think so many people can listen to it from the addict side or from the, beside the addict side, and what are some methods to help on either side, yourself, if you're the addict, or to help the addict without enabling the addict.
It's everything we do, and it's mindset. It's it's knowing yourself, seeing what the problem is. I don't know if I should keep going if you wanted me to talk about something else, but there's like it's kind of like a formula you could do for your own life, and it fixes most problems, basically.
I like it. Just
so you want me to say it? I mean, basically,
I was gonna say let's go with the formula. Sure, this sounds good.
And listen, I'm not trying to shamelessly like plug my book, but it is in my book. But basically, it's like, if you get
your book signed, autographed. I haven't got that yet, Alison.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'll do that. Give me your address. I'm sorry. I will do that.
Anyway,
so basically,
let's go.
It's just, all it is just you look at every area of your life like a snapshot. But I'm making it sound, it's simple, but it's not easy because people don't want to look at themselves. They don't want to stop. So I always say, like, be awake and aware in the now. But the key is without judgment, because people look at themselves, but they judge themselves. Mm-hmm. So like if you look at yourself emotionally, you look at your life, you look at your outcomes, your external. What is my life emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally, socially, financially, I don't know if I said vocationally, and how I have fun. So if I look at, it's so tangible, money's tangible, and it's your wheelhouse. So basically, if I look at my bank account, and I look at, am I in debt? How much money do I have? All of that. It's very tangible. It's a snapshot. This is what I've been doing. This is how I think. This is how I feel. This is how I live. Yep. It just tells you. The same thing with relationships. If you just, instead of saying, oh, it's circumstantial, it's not.
No.
Nothing's circumstantial.
No.
And that is the biggest lie sold to man. I believe it with everything in me. We create our lives, Angela. And the way that we interact with our life and our programming, because from 0 to 7 years old, we are programmed because we have a theta brainwave, which is a hypnotic state, which is such a blessing, because it's how we learn to read and write and do all this stuff and walk. But all the other shit is peppered in there. All these beliefs, all the meanings that are attached to this, there's a 1.5 quadrillion synaptic connections in our brain that create the life that babies have by the time they're 7 years old, and their perception of the world. So now, if you don't change that, okay, so let me go back. So you look at the snapshot of all of those different things.
Yep.
Honestly, deeply, but then without any judgment. You cannot judge it. It has to just be factual. This is what it is. This is it. That's the facts. Yep. The facts is that this is the kind of man I choose every single damn time. And what is that? But you don't look at the man. This is what I want to point out to people. Don't look at the man. Look at the feeling that you're creating over and over and over again with that man. What is the experience? People get caught up. Oh, he's this, he's that. No, who are you in that relationship? That's where people are lost. When you focus on externals, you are lost. You can't, if you want to fix an internal problem, you stop tinkering outside and blaming and saying, oh, this just happened to me. No, it didn't. Things just don't happen to us. When shit happens in my life, I go, okay, how did I create that? Oh, I was thinking like this. Oh my God, it's freaking magic. I just brought that shithead into my life because I was feeling bad about myself. That was quick. It happens quicker the more you notice it. All right. I'm trailing.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap up and come back to this. You guys have to get her book. I always end with 3 final questions. And I'm going to say something like that's a last minute thing for our listeners. But I know, like I said, we're going to have you back because this is a lot of stuff. I'm like, I had no idea we'd go this long, this deep, but I love it. I figured we would. Let's be honest. All right. So we have 3 final questions I always wrap up with. If someone's looking for their purpose, you have found your purpose. What is one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
Wow. Okay. I don't have one sentence ever, Angela. Can I have 3? I don't know. Can I have a paragraph?
1 paragraph.
All right. So basically, I thought I found my purpose, Angela. I went through my whole, I have counseling centers, I'm successful, whatever. And I went right to the foot of source, God, divinity. And I said, tell me my purpose. I just did this. No. And I'm like, no. My purpose, me, who am I? Why am I here? And I heard, you are here to know your lovability. And then you are these 2 things. You're here, 1, to know your lovability. Number 2, you're here to tell everybody, show everybody, help everybody know their lovability. That's it, nothing else. So when you're looking for your purpose, stop looking outside, boil it down to the deepest part of your soul and ask your source, your whatever you believe, go deep in and sit and wait for the answer. You'll get it if you mean it. And it's not about what you're going to do with your hands outside there. It's the purpose, is the meaning behind the work, right? Too much?
So
That
Number two
wasn't a
question
sentence.
is,
Listen,
what's
if you
your
ever want a
favorite
sentence,
quote?
forget it.
Yeah.
You're not
What's your
getting it.
favorite quote and why?
Oh, shit, I got a lot. Okay.
What one
Come
comes to
on.
mind?
All right. What comes to mind is by Alvin Toffler. The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write. The illiterate of the 21st century are those who cannot learn, unlearn, and learn again. And that is right aligned with the scripture that says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Those are the same words, just written, one spiritually, one intellectually.
I love it. So good. Last question. What's one word or sentence? One word or sentence you want in your gravestone?
It is well with my soul.
Look at that.
There is a
one sentence. Holy moly, one sentence. We got it.
You tried to stop me? I'm saying one more thing. There is a stream of well-being that flows. You can resist it or you can allow it. It flows nonetheless. And it's a stream, the living stream of life, infinite love. That's it. I'll be quiet. Sorry.
That's so good. No, like I said, we'll definitely go back into this. Guys, make sure to reach out. You can tell there's so much wisdom in this lady. Make sure you get her books. We'll have all the links in the show notes. Get her book, reach out to her, check out her website, all the stuff. And I just really appreciate you on here. As always, guys, I know you're going to share this. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe. Let's go out there. Let's change one starfish at a time. If we can change one starfish or one person at a time, together, we can change the world. Thank you so much, Alison.
I love you. And I love you
too.
all, really. Be blessed. Thank you.